If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First, it's free. Second, there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. 3, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. 4, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. 5, it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So, sign up to Anchor today. Greetings, ancestors. Welcome to another episode of The Adventures of Coyote Prophet. And this is the first two-parter adventure that I am recording and making into a podcast. It is, that wonderful story, Enough of the Cowardly Psychopathic BS Part 2. And there were a number of things that I didn't cover in the first podcast that I wanted to address in this one, so that it's a little bit more clear, because I know I was a little bit all over the place and I just wanted to get it out. And I tried to rehearse it, but I'm not very good at rehearsing stuff, and just doing it is always the best thing sometimes. Most times it's just doing it. So starting off, I wanted to make it clear that the feelings that I was feeling were coming way before the tarot reading. The tarot reading only confirmed a lot of the things that I had already felt and figured out. So the tarot readings were the last part of this story that I'm sharing with you at this point. So it was not like I got a reading way before and then stuff unraveled and, got to this point. So no, I just want to make that clear. The other thing too is that I mentioned before that the term soul flames soulmates and twin flames was never really something that I used. I always just said that I had connections with people, and some people there were deeper connections than others. But I never personally used the terms soul mates or twin flames, and really kind of been very much on the edge on, if I believed any of that from that perspective or not. And I mean, right now, I really don't give a fuck. It's just really annoying, the terms themselves and all the stuff behind it. But one of the things I wanted to share was just some of the research that I found on other people who had some ideals on soulmates and twin flames, just to unravel this, BS that we in this society are led to believe, especially when the most important thing of any relationship on any level is communication. And if you do not nurture a relationship, it's going to die. And that is on every level. And another thing that I need to point out too is that when I'm talking about my situation and the person who I'm speaking of, it was not a sexual thing. It is, my whole issue doesn't really have anything to do with sex. So anyone who may get that ideal, that's not where I'm going, that's not where I'm coming from. That is definitely not where this is, coming out of. So with that said, here's a very interesting thing that I found, that someone wrote that I will share with you about twin flames and soulmates. And they wrote, quote, "Well, life is not a movie, at least not for some of us. I wanted to believe this time, and all the signs were there, but the rough reality came through. The new character I met turned out to not be the prince I hoped would save me from my dull life, but a terrible narcissist obsessed with himself and many women, a serial liar and cheater, the worst I have ever met. I finally felt so ashamed of putting in danger my relationship with my husband for this prick. Yes, he was cause he was telling me that he loved me, that I was his twin flame, and forever and ever. But the next day, he was gone. I never heard from him again. I never understood what happened. One day, searching for an answer, I Googled, how come someone who tells you that he loves you can disappear the next day? And I found the answer. The answer was that he was a psychopath who uses my idealism and love to fuel himself, a psychopath who told me that I was the only one he loved and liked, but he ended up with dozens of women that he claimed he didn't like. I ended up totally poisoned by the situation. He was by far the worst man I ever met. He doesn't even deserve to be called a man. He was a leech. I improved myself. I stepped into my mission. I did everything the fucking journey required, but this sucker never came back. Now, that's a clear example of the danger of even having this concept in your head, because even if something goes wrong and you think that this connection that you have is something that is on that level of a soulmate or twin flame, you're bound to put yourself in a situation that is unattainable, that is detrimental, that causes more mental health issues in the long run than it would do any good. So it's really interesting because although this situation that I just read is about 90% away from where I am or where I was in my own personal situation, because it wasn't like that, it's still very important to share and to just remind people that, people make choices, and, oftentimes people make choices that are not in their best interest. Now, people make mistakes, that's true, but the main thing that everyone should always remember is that if you are giving concepts that really do not gel in the reality, then you really need to discard those concepts because they are detrimental to you. And what we see happening on a global level right now is we're seeing an awakening of masses who are realizing that everything that they've been told is a lie. This twin flame and this soulmate shit is a lie. Now, again, me being told twin flame, soulmate stuff was way after I had already known that there was a connection. What I'm getting at from my standpoint, from my story, is that we're talking about what happens when there is something real between two people, and when they make the choice to take the cowardly way out, when they make the choice to cut the cords or cut the communication. And it's not that this one particular incident is really the catalyst for me even doing this, but this has happened so many times over so many years that it really is just pathetic and disgusting that people would even allow themselves to stoop so low and be so just vomit-filled and pusillanimous to even treat someone like that based upon fear or cowardice or any of that sort. Now, there's some other stuff here that I have, and this is something else that was written, and this person wrote, a better question to continually ask ourselves is twofold. What is this person teaching me right now about myself and about themselves? And how can I love myself and this other person as fully as possible right now while I still attain to my own needs, boundaries, and an autonomy? Now, those are good questions. And I think that for any person who is able to do deep introspective work, which most people are not, these are questions that they often ask. And even when they don't want to ask themselves these questions, they are still pondering, what should I do and how should I take the best of this? Because even if you ask the question, what can I take from this situation? The one thing that's going to happen is that you are going to at least come up with some answers that's going to help you in the long run. And that'll allow you to even grow. And in most cases, like in my case, in every single case, it always means growing without the person. Personally, I don't necessarily need to have those types of situations in order to have lessons, to grow. I think that's another bullshit fallacy that, people are in your life to teach you lessons. Not always. There's some people who are just there who just really want to suck your fucking goddamn energy. There's just people who want to waste your goddamn time. And that's all that they're there for. And they need to be eliminated by any means necessary. And I mean that from one extreme to the other. But there are situations where you can learn a lot from the pain and or suffering that happens, but it is not a prerequisite for love. It's not a prerequisite for belonging. It's not a prerequisite for gaining higher intelligence and understanding. All of that shit is fallacy. All of that shit are lies, and we do not need to play into that at all. And I'll continue with what they wrote. They said, and that's part of what really freaks me out about the twin flame superstition that it is. The overarching belief that these relationships are supposed to be painful, hard, uncomfortable, and rife with conflict, and how that is supposedly the sign that we found our twin flame. And a lot of people believe that shit. They believe that shit. And I'm like this. If there are times when, relationships are hard and relationships are difficult, but if you don't have the basic foundations of communication, of, opening up and trust and all of those basic things, then all of that shit is just ridiculous waste of time and energy and life force. And who needs that? Who really wants that? It's just ridiculous. So another thing that was written by someone else, and I'll share this. So whenever you agree to a soul contract with someone 300 years ago or 3 days ago, you can always change your mind about how your relationship unfolds. And let me interject. I've always had the situation where the other person has changed their mind drastically and was like, I don't want to be bothered. Which, people have the right to change their minds. However, you would think that people who do that would change their minds about something that is legitimately detrimental to them, or not for their soul growth, or something that's going to harm them in some way, form, or fashion. That's never been my case personally. When people have broken it off like that, really, really hard, really fast, and in the cases where I did find out, it was like, are you kidding me? You cut the ties, you cut the connection because of that? It was never anything that made sense. It never was, never ever was. Now, flipping the script, I've seen personally some of those same people and others through my journey who should have done that in situations with people, and they did not. They kept it going. Was it causing them pain? Yes. Suffering? Yes. Financial difficulties? Yes. Problems with their family? Yes. Problems with their jobs? Yes. Just can go on and on and on. Problems with their health? Oh my God. Yes. Absolutely. But they kept it going. And when I compare those situations to the reasons why they cut the cords with me, it's like, no way. It's not me, it's you. And so this was a source of, many years ago when I was much younger, a source of a blow to my self-esteem, because I always felt that all of this stuff was my fault. And to a degree, it was. And what was my fault was my low self-image and my low self-esteem at those periods in time. But that's not the case now. I don't. But let me continue with my personal situation and my personal story more. So in the particular card reading that my friend Kimberly gave me, which you can see the card reading or the actual card layout, it's a 7-card layout on Instagram. So if you go to my Instagram, Adventures of Coyote Prophet, you can see it there. It was 7 cards, and the first card was Twin Flame. I was like, wow, okay. So basically, for me, that card solidified that there was a connection, which I already knew. I already felt that. The second card was Retreat into Nature. That was something that had happened, not with me, with the other person. And it was really interesting because it was upside down. And whereas they should be really disassociating themselves with the distractions of the outside world and tuning into on a deeper level with nature, they have not been. And so the rest of the cards really explained and the whole situation and basically what was going on, and that I was pretty much right in what I was picking up. Again, me coming to the realization that I'm an empath and understanding that what I was feeling was laying heavy on me, and the message was that there was a lot of fear revolving around what was being felt on their end, a lot of confusion on their end and not knowing how to deal with it. And, you know, truth be told, that happens with a lot of people, and I do have some empathy and compassion for people who do have issues in dealing with things that may be new to them. But I think that when we're talking about grown people, I don't really have that much, especially when you can always rely on the basics of any relationship, which is communication. When you cut ties in the physical world, but the ties in the invisible world are still there, and you're dealing with people who are empathic, they can feel what's going on. And it's important that you keep those channels open. And one of the things that I find very interesting is that I often see, or often have felt when person is thinking of me, and when I'm in their head because they're in my head, you know, it's like some, you know, superhero kind of shit sometimes, and it becomes really annoying, especially when it's with people who do not either recognize, honor that part of their own power and energy, and it really becomes very, very difficult to deal with because you're all in the ocean all by yourself. Now, the other young lady who I mentioned, Guided by Angels, the link will be in the description of both her and Kimberly Fraizer's YouTube channels, and I do recommend you watch both. especially if you are into tarot readings. And the young woman in Guided by Angels is pretty good. I think she's really good. Although, as far as I'm concerned personally, in terms of the whole concept of twin flames and soulmates, it's bullshit. But in terms of a relationship between people, grown folks who are, suffering from some situations, from some misunderstandings, and what to do and how to deal with it, spot on. One of the things that she said, which was right in connection with the reading that Kimberly did, and I must also add that when I stumbled upon Guided by Angels in this particular video, I was looking for something on twin flames. Her video was the first one that popped up, and when I clicked on the video, I noticed that she had just uploaded it 2 hours before I saw it, which was within 12 hours of the reading from Kimberly. And these are some of the things that she said. She was reading from the various card decks, and some of them are really nice card decks on twin flames and so on and so forth. She said, "I know that you love me and you're hiding from me." That was pretty much more from my end of, I guess. She was saying that they were scared to be alone. That's why they're reacting this way. Sorry of blocking you. It was easier for me. That was what she was saying, that the masculine, it was really interesting because she was talking about the masculine and feminine. She had two totally different decks, a masculine deck and a feminine deck, and this was all readings from the masculine deck. She talked about how there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of uncertainty, and so on and so forth. And I understood exactly what she was saying. I get exactly what, it made a lot of sense. It was really powerful. It was in accordance with the reading that I got from Kimberly. But at the same time, I just at this point in my life where it's like, I'm an adult. I can't deal with, especially in this time, in this age, I can't deal with non-communicative, scary people. I can't, and nobody should, really. There's a time when, people have to get the distance, have the distance, separate and regroup and do whatever they need to do to recharge. But at the same time, that's a conversation that needs to be had between said people. It may be too intense. This is really intense for me. I need to step back. Or, there's a lot going on. I really need to clear my head. And I think that if one of the two people are saying, hey, I need to speak with you, then you should honor what they're asking and requesting to speak with them. And even if there's stuff that you can't say at the moment, then you should say, I can't really talk on this at the moment. That's where the respect from the other person will come in, where it's like, I really wish we could. I understand. When you're ready, I'm here. That makes all the difference in any relationship, on any level, with anyone. Because if you're connecting with a person, you're relating to them. Whether it's the store clerk, the barber, the bus driver, the elevator conductor, the musician, the person on the phone getting your credit card information to charge you up the ass for a bill. Everybody is about communication. It's just that simple. So it's really disheartening. It was really very disheartening that I actually had to do the thing that was basically saying about the other person is that, hey, I was kind of blocked because they would not communicate with me. So I basically had to block them too. And she talked a lot about social media, and I was like, wow, this is interesting. So I had to do that for my own good, because for me, I had to cut the cords. I had to cut the count. I have to cut the connections. And honestly, I put it out in the universe. Any connections like that, I don't want them anymore. I don't need them. I don't want them, because it's just a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. It is just detrimental to my own soul growth, because there are things that need to be done on this plane. There are things that need to be done right here, right now, and it requires soul tribes, it requires groups of people, it requires connections with people. And if folks are going to be kind of squirmish and scary and cowardly, can't deal with it, because that's wasting too much precious time, and their lives that are at stake, their souls that are at stake here. So I just said, all of them, cut it quick, cut it deep. From here on out, way to the past, way to the future. Do not come near me. Do not even think of me. Do not even long of me. Do not even come near me in a billion, zillion, quadrillion years. Don't even come to my soul tribes. Don't even come nowhere near. And I've had numerous situations like this, which is the reason why I'm doing this now. It's not because of this one situation, just numerous situations. Too many to even count on all the people who have died in the last 10 years in this goddamn planet that have been like this. And I've just been, forgiving and so on and so forth. And, fuck. If I'm going to forgive anybody, it's going to be myself first and foremost. Fuck it for forgiving anybody else. It's just like, that's on you, because that's not me. That's you. So moving on, just drop it. So cutting it quick and cutting it deep is the best thing for anyone to ever do, especially when they find themselves in situations like that. At least that's my opinion. That's my 2 cents. But anyhow, that's pretty much all I have to say on this. If you got any questions or comments, you can email me at adventuresofcoyoteprophet@gmail.com. And if you're on YouTube, you can leave a comment below. You can also make sure you thumbs up and subscribe and all that other good stuff. If you're listening to me on any other app platforms like Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Bleacher, etc., definitely share this with other people, because I'm sure there are numerous people out there who are under this hypnosis of, oh, I have a twin flame and there's this deep connection and there's all these problems. Well, problems always arrive in relationships, but if you two can communicate and you know that you have a connection and you both honor that, then you are good. Whether that's a romantic connection or whether it's a connection on any other level, it always boils down to communication and respect of that connection. If they do not respect that connection, if they do not communicate, they are pieces of shit and you need to move fucking on. Bottom line. Anyway, until next time, always remember, it's better to travel. Always better to travel.